Oh, now we are.
Welcome.
Hi.
There we are. We're live.
Everything. I was like, sorry.
Welcome to Grow Big TV. We have an awesome guest today in Kathryn Alexander. Let's see who's in the chat. We got Jennifer Ocean Homestead, Jamie's Country Living, Wanda Moses, Mountain Grandma, Jay Dixon, Rebel Canners. Welcome in, guys. Welcome in. There's Dee's Garden Adventures, Gail Southern Living.
Hello.
Thank you, guys. There's Built on a Rock Homestead. Jersey Twister is here. So people are starting to come on in. Welcome in, guys. Welcome in. It's so good to have you here tonight. If you can, please like this and share this out. So we got an awesome guest. And before I want to show you a new film. This is really, really awesome. It's a group that Kathryn's involved with. And so I want to show you this film. It's a couple minutes long. There's CR. Welcome in, CR. Jane Doe. Thank you for the mods for making this channel grow. Okay. So you guys are going to love this.
What if I told you that we belong here? What if I told you that the earth needs us? What if I told you I've seen my people turn deserts into gardens? For tens of thousands of years, native people of this land constructed beautiful gardens all around them. We were active agents in shaping the land to produce prolific abundance. We expanded and designed grasslands and forests for the benefit of all life. We became what the world calls a keystone species, or a species upon which entire ecosystems depend. And our cultures became keystone cultures, refined over time. Now, much was made about the positive environmental effect of the pandemic. As more people stayed home, pollution levels dropped, animals began to reclaim habitat, and the logical leap that many observers seemed to make was that the earth would be better off without humans. I reject that leap. The earth may be better off without certain systems we have created, but we are not those systems. We don't have to be, at least. What if these human hands and minds could be such a great gift to the earth that they sparked new life wherever people and purpose met? I'd like to share important indigenous land management techniques in hopes that they might inform and inspire us today. The first is to tap into and align ourselves with the forces of nature. Why try to control the earth when you can work with her? In Southwest deserts, native farmers have leveraged the pre-existing topography of the land. They place their fields at the base of watersheds to catch every drop of the monsoon rains and the nutrients that flow down with them, carried down from upland soils. This alluvial farming technique requires no outside fertilizers or irrigation because all of this comes with the rain. Another fascinating land management technique is intentional habitat expansion. Why put plants and animals into farms and cages when you can simply make a home for them and they come to you? Indigenous peoples have intentionally augmented grasslands for buffalo by bringing gentle fire to the Great Plains. We would transform dead plant tissues into nutrient-dense ash, nourishing the soil and unlocking the seeds of pyroadapted grasses and medicines like echinacea. Over time, this fire would prevent trees and shrubs from taking over the grasslands and would nourish the soil to generate topsoils up to 4 feet deep. Many people think that we followed the buffalo, when in fact the buffalo followed our fire. A third strategy is to create non-human-centric systems. Why hoard for your own species when you can live to serve all life around you? Coastal nations of British Columbia enhance fish habitat by planting kelp forests where the herring lay their eggs. This helps that small silverfish lay even more eggs, and both the eggs and the hatched herringfish cascade up the food chain, nourishing so many other life forms, such as bear, salmon, orca, eagles, wolves, and more. By seeding this food web and feeding all life around them, coastal nations have greater food security for themselves because they feed the hand that feeds them. These are the types of food and land management systems that Europeans came across as they spread westward. They often mislabeled them as terra nullius, or virgin land, or wilderness, instead of what they really were: living heirlooms, thousands of years in the making.
I think that is totally awesome. That was really well done. So, welcome in everybody. A couple other people just came in to chat. We got Rambling with the Brums, Random JL. Maybe it's time for the glasses, Cork. David Gray's here. God's Desire for Me. Myra Page. Welcome in. Welcome in. It is time for the glasses, guys. So we got a great live today. We have Kathryn Alexander. She's an advocate for living regeneratively and understanding the earth as a single interconnection system. Here are a few ways you can explore her work. So you can find her on YouTube. We're going to go over her YouTube pages. And she discusses the ethics of living regeneratively and shares insights of sustainable living and earth values. She also has a podcast, and it's called Awakening to Gaia's Voice, where she discusses, she has a book, guys, so it's pretty cool to talk about the book, and how to understand the earth as one living system impacts our ethics way of life. Kathryn has written about her journey in understanding ethics and values. Her work accumulates in exploring the interconnectedness of the world and the importance of regenerative living. So let's welcome Kathryn Alexander. Welcome. So we're so happy you came on our live today. This is really awesome. So much to explore. For example, oceans, the water, the soil. You know, if we don't have a healthy soil and we don't have a healthy ocean, our life kind of goes downhill really fast.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we can make those connections. We can make those changes. We can what we control is ourselves. We can control what's in our own land, our own properties, and try to teach everybody about our communities, how we can live a better life.
Yeah.
And so let's talk a little bit about your life, Kathryn. Did you have a garden growing up? Do you have brothers, sisters? What was your lifestyle growing up?
Well, actually, I had sort of an unusual life. My mother had MS. So I was born to make her better because they thought maybe her body would throw that off. This was in the 40s, and they didn't really understand what MS was. In fact, they're still working on it, actually. And it didn't work. So she was not able to do a lot of things that she wanted to do. And I was a caregiver to some extent. And I was given the option when I got to be a teenager. My father kind of realized that maybe I should have a life of my own. So he gave me some permission to do that. And I went to a horse auction with a friend of his who bought a horse and asked me if I wanted his horse's son. And I said, sure. So I came home with a horse, much to my father's consternation. And had horses for several years and rode mostly Western style. And then I went to college, and then I discovered systems thinking. So I've been a student of systems thinking since the 80s, actually studied with Fritjof Capra mostly. He's been a huge mentor for me. If anybody knows that guy, he's written a whole bunch of books. I highly recommend all of them. And seeing things from a systems point of view is really different, because you start looking at wholes and at patterns instead of the parts and pieces that we're so familiar with. And that's one of the things that really makes a difference when you're trying to save the planet or to understand how the planet's working or not working now, is to see those interconnections and to understand those patterns that really are indicative of the life that is filled on this planet. I mean, this planet is alive. It is full of living things. And we're just beginning to understand that, actually. Yeah.
I mean, just like all those microbes, right? All those microbes in all living soil has microbes. Yeah, of course, more microbes, but God, I'm sorry.
Do you realize that your body is full of 30,000 microbes that have no DNA connection to you whatsoever?
Wow, that's quite the stat.
They are individual living things doing their own thing, having absolutely no sense of you, but they make you alive. They keep you alive. That's why you're here. It's because of those interdependencies.
So do you think
we have
our
aliens.
gut health?
We have aliens on us, Joe.
Yeah,
I'm
we
sorry?
I said we have aliens on us, Joe.
That's right. That's exactly right. Exactly right. They are in every cell of your body. The mitochondria that give our cells the energy to live are not us. They have no DNA connection whatsoever, but they find their life made better in partnership with our cells. That's pretty profound, actually.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And we're a microcosm of the bigger microcosm. The Earth is exactly like that, filled with thousands of beings that are all independent, doing their own thing, making her life possible.
Now,
isn't that awesome?
That is so awesome. This is great. You guys' mind's going to be blown during this interview because his mind's already blown. This is awesome. Now, has there been a decrease in microbes in your body in the last 30 years? Would you know that?
Oh, yeah. And okay, so I'm going to take this as from a very prosaic source. AARP. Okay, this is not high science, folks. There's in the recent article, there's a whole thing about the body biome. We've talked about gut, and gut bacteria. Now kind of you do probiotics to keep your gut bacteria working. Okay, so that's the start. There are 5 pounds of microbes in your gut. Other living critters there. And when you keep a monochromatic diet, you're depriving them of food. So the more varied your diet is, the more they are fed and the happier they are.
Okay.
So it's diversity everywhere you look. The more the merrier. We need that diversity to keep us healthy in so many ways at so many levels. Yeah, even us personally, our little bodies.
And that's why it's so important, the soil and the ocean.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, the soil is even more important because you get the microbes in there, and the whatever we're eating grows in that, and then we eat it and it feeds our gut biome.
Yep. Or doesn't. Yes.
But there are certain ways that you grow that doesn't have those microbes and it strips you of that. And then then you're just eating emptiness.
Yes.
Empty watered lettuce and tomatoes.
And when they're processed, it's even worse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's the reason why you see diverticulitis in 25, 30-year-olds.
That's why my stomach is all messed up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Completely.
Yeah. Go back to eating raw foods, real carrots.
Yeah. Oh, I love carrots. I grew, I don't know how many pounds, like 20 pounds of carrots. I picked them in December. I ate like half of them before I froze them because I froze the rest of them. Oh, they were so delicious. They're so good.
Yeah.
And so for those in the chat, we're talking about carrots. Make sure you go to join the Wide Family Farm Carrot Challenge.
By the way, y'all, we have 6
carrots.
of those started. 6 of them out there, getting ready. They're only this big, but we have 6 of those suckers out there. So get in that carrot challenge and see if you can beat us.
Throw in a garbage can. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's gonna be so much fun. Plus, we have our brothers over at in the UK growing too, and we all know that they grow tremendous stuff, especially carrots. They're really good at growing big carrots. So if you can beat them, you'll win the challenge this year for sure.
So we got the Marshmallow Man just came on in. Welcome, Lewis. You got the Cosmic Cultivators here.
Cosmics. Thanks for coming in. Love you guys.
Love the Land Homestead is here. Rick is in. Welcome, Rick. Awesome. Thank you guys for being here tonight. And people on LinkedIn, welcome in. If you guys want to ask a question, go ask a question. Our main live's on YouTube, but it's broadcast on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and a whole bunch of other social media. So
Kathryn,
welcome.
what made you interested in all of this? Like, okay, so you grew up. Did you have a garden? Did something in your life influence you to this point where you're like, yes, this is what I want to do?
It's just evolved over time. I can't point to any particular thing that stimulated me. I think systems thinking was one of the biggest influences. I really do. But I've always loved nature. I've always had cats and dogs. I used to rescue pets and all that kind of stuff, much to my parents' consternation. And it's just an outgrowth of that. I love life. And that's what's true about life, is it loves life. So we can trust life. When life wants to have something happen, it wants to have life happen. It doesn't want death. Now, death is part of it, but that's different. Dying within that cycle is different than the sort of callous disregard that we often have. We cut down forests, we pave over stuff, we make it impossible for things to live for our convenience, which is different than dying to feed something.
Yeah.
So that you're part of it. And we're the only species that kills things for absolutely no reason at all.
Yeah.
So life is fun,
Life is fun.
It's nice to be here. Yeah.
Taking another animal's life for your own use is something that I didn't realize, because I have a farm and I had like 10 turkeys. I cried when we had to butcher them. It's just something that I knew we had to do it, but at the same time, I was so upset over it. It made me upset. We had them for a while.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people need to experience that to appreciate life, to appreciate what is being killed for your use.
Well, and the indigenous folks used to ask to have that sacrifice made. There are some amazing stories. Animals don't fear death in the same way we do. And there's just some amazing stories about how animals have stepped up to offer themselves in different ways when they knew and were asked what was happening, which is different than just going out and taking that life without asking. It's all about relationship.
Yeah.
Being in relationship with life. And when you're in relationship with something, you care about it,
Right.
you know? And that doesn't mean that it doesn't die and that it doesn't serve you in that way. But there's an appreciation for that instead of a callous disregard. So that relationship means everything.
Yeah. So you never just kill to kill. You
Right.
shouldn't. You should
Yeah.
respect that animal.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I feel I'm a very deeply feeling person. So those kind of things, they just touch me. And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
And Rebel Canner says that's not true. Weasels are not one of those animals. They just get in your coop, they eat everything, or they kill everything, and they don't eat it all. And that is the truth.
Yeah.
They're horrible animals.
Well, I think maybe if we understood that, why they did that, that might change. I mean, I can't answer it because I don't know myself, but I would suspect that they haven't evolved to be with chickens. Okay, chickens are an anomaly in their world in some kind of way. So maybe their behavior is also unusual for that reason.
That's true.
Yeah.
Did you ever have chickens?
I haven't. My daughter's wanted chickens for her entire life, and we have yet to do that. But no, I have not had chickens. Yeah, I love chickens. I love going to the state fair and seeing all the different kinds of chickens. I mean, they're amazing. They are just amazing. And the eggs that we get now are, I forget the kind of chicken. There's a chicken that lays colored eggs. They're blue and green. And we get their eggs actually at the grocery store. It's wonderful.
So Serena had a question in the chat. She goes, discuss. One second. Quirky, can you read that? I got to get my glasses.
Yeah, it's okay. I'll read it for you.
Thank you.
Real Big TV discuss PFAS, what they are, their impact on the environment, and how to test your cardboard for them. I have no idea what a PFAS is. Serena, if you could go into detail, because I don't know what that is.
Yeah, they're forever chemicals. They're part of the group of forever chemicals. Yeah.
Oh, is that what that means? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, that's about as much as I know, actually. I know they're in the water. They're in a lot of the stuff that's manufactured, and they're trying to get it out of manufactured stuff, but it leaks into everything. I mean, we all have so many chemicals in us now. Where they're finding chemicals in every parts of our body at every age, every place on the planet. They're just so. We just need to work around it. I think it's responsible for a lot of the things that a lot of the problems that we're having. You mentioned earlier, Jim, about all of the biome in the gut. When those biomes are not, when our gut biome is not full and vibrant, then it affects everything, including our mental attitude, our mental health, our emotional capabilities. All of those are affected by the biome, the pieces of the biome that are us. And so when we don't take care of that, we feel the effects of it,
Right. Yeah. I know I have like a ton of stomach issues, and so yeah, it can affect everything. I know when I have stomach flare-ups, it affects my mood and everything else that I have going on for the day. So
well, it also affects the nervous system.
Yeah.
So just think all the nervous system disorders there are now.
Right. I think those chemicals really impact all that, very much so. And there's been very little studies on it. I mean, we're inundated with so many chemicals, and nobody's really researched the impact of specific chemicals, let alone the interaction of chemicals with other chemicals. So we're in this soup, like it or not.
Well, we talk about regeneration. There's 4 types: ecological, social, economic, and personal. Mm-hmm. Right? And so welcome in Johnny Smallpepper. Welcome in. So we're talking about ecological regeneration. How can we restore the ecosystems and promote biodiversity in local communities.
I'm amazed you asked that. I'm so grateful. Exactly what I'm doing right now. So the Soil Smart, Soil Wise website is all about that. There is a thing, and this is fairly new science, called the biotic pump. And you can Google that.
Well,
and the biotic pump is how the earth cools herself, and it is how rain is made. And it is something that we can actually impact. And guess what? It all starts with soil. If you have healthy soil, and you can create healthy soil very easily through compost, so the regular application of compost, which every one of you out there can do, is one way to do that. You can also add biochar, which is a little more, it's more of a craft. It takes a little more effort. You can do it at home. It's still cheap, doesn't cost anything or very little to do. And that will speed up the process. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Yay, biochar. It's also the design of the land. Nature designs land to hold water. And when water is staying on the land for a long enough time, it percolates down through. Now, where we get streams is from the water in the soil. You cannot have water without soil. It doesn't happen. The soil holds that water. And when you plant appropriately, a forest, not just trees, planting trees is almost a waste of time. You really need to plant forests because trees live together. They live in community with other plants, and that mycorrhizome underneath, all of those bacteria underneath, has to be there to really support them. Then when the soil is moist and full of water, the tree roots go down, so you're not worried about trees falling over, and the roots go down really deep. So that adds porosity to clay and to other difficult soils. And when you have that forest, then it takes up all that water and shoots it out the leaves as water vapor and as bacteria. And that bacteria actually is part of what makes rain. So in the clouds, that water vapor forms, and then it moves inland and drops and starts that cycle over again. And that's the biotic pump. That is how water gets into the internal parts of continents. Not just the edges where the ocean is, but in the middle where there's no water. It's through that biotic pump that carries it from the coast all the way through the continents. And that has to do with plants and soil and land design. So that's the perfect answer. That's something everybody can contribute to. And that's why I'm trying to work with cities to get the whole city to do that, to create a sponge city where all the soil in the city is open to water and is holding water. Then you have water during droughts. You have wet soil, which cools the city, and it's fire resistant. So all of the issues that we're having, a good soil, a good, strong biotic pump with all the parts working addresses.
So how do you propose, like, say, for instance, I don't know, I went to a portion of New Jersey that literally had zero grass. It was all concrete, and maybe somebody had a hanging basket. It was zero life. So
Yeah.
how do you propose a place like that do that?
You can still add compost to your soil. That's the start. It's not rocket science. It's not difficult. It is something all of us can do, which is why I'm so passionate about it.
Cities like that, they create more heat.
Yes, absolutely. Because we pave it all, we make it all hard, and it all reflects back that heat. We need to get rid of as much pavement as we can, and to make that soil hold water so that it's cool. If the soil gets hot, all those microbes die. So you really want to have that humus in the soil. And the only way it comes is through compost.
Okay.
Yeah. It's so simple that we want to dismiss it, but it is so profound at the same time.
It's with all the cities, what's going on today, like it's so hard when you're trying to improve climate change, and then you go to the city and we're adding millions of people.
Yeah.
That is, to me, it's almost like, well, you don't believe in climate change if we're adding all these people in the cities, because it doesn't. You either have one or the other. I know it's controversial or whatever, but what we could do is exactly what you said. We need to change the temperature, what's going on in the cities with all the concrete, and by adding compost, just like bees.
Yes.
Bees are awesome in the city right now, believe it or not. And because of rooftop beekeeping,
Yeah.
which is pretty amazing right now. So
yeah, and then you have cities like Detroit, for instance, they have completely went to rubble. So what had happened is they started putting in farms.
Yeah.
They started
They
growing
used to live there.
But you can't do that in place. I mean, New York City isn't falling apart.
Yeah.
So
There's still
what can these people do?
Yeah, there's still soil around. There's still an occasional tree, that kind of thing. And really take care of that instead of just letting it sit there. I mean, it's so amazing to me talking about urban forests, which is a big thing in cities. And they take care of the trees in cities. They plant the trees in cities. And when I talk to urban forest departments, they tell me they don't worry about soil at all. They just plant the tree and it'll work out. And that's not true. It's like totally not true. They even feel it's controversial if you put compost in the hole before you put the tree in. It's not controversial. I don't understand this. I just don't understand it. Any way that you can get organic matter into the soil is going to help. I don't care how you do it. I truly don't. It opens up that soil, and it just gives us so much to do that. It's such an easy thing. And there's another piece of it too, I think. Taking care of your soil and paying attention to the size of the earthworms so that you know how well you're doing. If they're fat and long, you're doing well. If they're skinny and short, you got work to do. Gives us a chance to reconnect with nature, even on that scale. Hands in the dirt is really physically important for our bodies. We talked about the human biome. We talked about the connection. That's why there are lots of studies that show that when you have your hands in the dirt occasionally, your health is better, your mood is better, your whole body appreciates that. So this is a way to begin to.
We need a whole body.
Yeah,
it does relieve stress. I know for me, when
absolutely.
I go out in the garden and I plant flowers, I can control how pretty they're going to be, like how I can plant them and whatever. And so therefore I relieve stress that way because I can control that. And I mean, I can't obviously if there's a hailstorm or something, but but I can control that and it makes me happy. It's my happy place. So yeah.
Yes. So the MA in my name is not for Massachusetts. It's for Master of Arts. And I use that so that if you want to Google me and you use Kathryn Alexander, MA, you'll get me, not all the other thousands of Kathryn Alexanders that are out there. So thanks for the question.
When I looked you up a couple months ago, 2 months ago, that's the first thing I said. Well, that can't be Massachusetts, can it?
Sorry, it's a brand. What can I tell you?
So you're from Washington, is it? No,
Yes,
no. Yeah, Washington.
Yeah, Spokane. Yeah. So I'm on the dry side of the state. We're high desert. Yeah.
Well, it's good to be on the dry spot a little bit.
I'm done.
Now it's a dry spot, a wet spot today. I tell you what, there's so much rain in New Jersey. We probably, if it was cold here, we would have had about 200 inches of snow this year. It rained that much.
Yeah. But we don't keep that rain. All that rain disappears. And then when we don't have rain, we're dying for it. That's the point of having wet soil. That rain will stay so we can use it all year round. We get more rain than we use. Almost every city I've discovered. Spokane uses 53 million gallons of water a year, which is twice as much as another city our size. So we're really lavish and wasteful on water. but we get 17 billion gallons of rain. We get more rain than we need, but we don't keep it.
Well, that's the importance of biochar.
Yeah,
so biochar acts as that sponge. It keeps it there.
that's right. That's right. That's right. So healthy soil keeps rainwater.
Yep.
It's really
That's
key.
the reason why cover crops right now is such a big thing.
Yes.
Or it's starting to become a big thing. People are learning about it because, yeah, if you guys are tilling, you see that everybody that's tilled, when it pours, it just puddles, not puddles, but ponds. It's really insane what's happening out there. But if you go to a farm where they use cover crops, there's no such thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is
it
pretty
just
amazing.
absorbs right into the soil. Yep. Yep. The organic matter makes all the difference. So any way we can get organic stuff into soil, the better off we're going to be. Everywhere, every piece of land. Parks, golf courses.
Yeah. And I noticed like even a lot of kids' parks, they don't do that.
Yeah.
And that's one easy place you could do that.
Yeah. Yeah. We just don't take care of our land in that way. You know, you could compost in the fall before the snow. And it'd be beautiful in the spring.
Oh, it's funny. Life with Bobby goes, must be a common last name. I know someone who has the last name Alexander from Washington State and lives in Minnesota.
Yes, there's a lot of us.
And David just subscribed, so thank you.
Yeah, so what do we mean when we say live regeneratively? You know, what does that term mean? And for me, what it means is that it means that we live in a way that life thrives because of our being here. So to go back to Lila June's beautiful video, that's the whole point. When you can look around as what a legacy to leave and see that the land is better because you were here. And to watch during the day how often you make life thrive or don't, whether it's psychological through attitude and words or physical through doing something that keeps that life alive.
It's frustrating when you are doing that, when you are putting the compost in the soil, you are doing all the necessary things and not that many people are doing it. That's, to me, is frustrating. My grandmother was really big into saving water. And I remember even when we were younger, she would save the wash water. It would pour over into the thing and she would save it and then put it back in. She did that all the time. She's like, it's because when you guys get older, you're not going to have any water. And so she'd always do that. And it's nice when people around you are doing that, but then you see others and they're not doing the same thing. And it's frustrating because we're basically fighting an endless battle because no one else is following in line. And really, it starts with the kids. The kids need to learn. The kids need to learn so much more than what they're learning. They need to learn how to grow things as well.
Yep.
That needs to be a part of their curriculum.
Yep.
You know?
And there's schools doing it. Some schools actually have gardens as part of the playground.
Yeah.
It should be all schools, though.
Yeah.
They all should have some kind of greenhouse work. Because, school year ends in June.
Right.
If you're growing a tomato, you're not getting until July for the most part.
Yeah.
Or maybe they should grow dwarf tomatoes. No, I don't think anybody's ever thought about that.
Have a greenhouse.
Yeah, have a greenhouse. There you go.
I was very, very proud of, I work as, I'm a lunch lady at the school. And I was very proud of my supervisor because any plastic bags that we get, she saves them. And any extra food, like whatever, like scraps from, because we have to have vegetables and stuff for the kids, she takes them home and feeds them to the chickens. And nothing goes to waste. And she saves those plastic bags. Our town recycles those and makes them into benches.
Nice.
And I think that is so cool of her. So she really is doing her part. And I thought that was so cool. I never told her that it was so cool. I just observed But I just think that is so cool of her that she is doing that. Like,
Yeah.
nobody has ever thought to do that kind of stuff. So
Send her a note. Yeah, send her a note. Say, gee, I was just thinking about you. I wanted you to know that I was thinking about you and thinking about this.
And the same thing should be said for
Super cool.
compost too. We're using compost. It should just be starting with kids to make it just a normal thing to do, not even think about it. Where we compost and recycle. Well, we recycle, right? But the food waste, it should go to a different bin. And after it goes to a different bin, they should learn about worms and do
Yeah.
vermicompost.
They should have worm compost bins. Right. Kids would love it.
Yeah, exactly. Look at those worms in action.
Yes. Yeah, you can see them make dirt. My gosh, it's magic. I mean, that's the truth of it. Both compost and worm compost making are magical because you see dirt come alive right before you. You know what you put in there, and then you take this beautiful black stuff out. It's just magic. It's just magic.
So LP has a question. How have your efforts been received by municipals you work with and by the public?
Actually, people are really interested and have been very supportive. However, that is different than changing their own behavior. So we're still at the, gee, it's great you're doing that, instead of how can we do that with you? Yeah. So we're still working on that. That's a little bit to your point that not everybody's doing what I'm doing. It's so we think in silos, you know, and we see this and we see that and we see this, but we don't put it together. And it's the putting together. That's why I talk about my work as whole systems work, because we have all these different parts and pieces. So we're body, mind, spirit, and emotions. We're all those four things. And we do body stuff. You know, we have psychological stuff. We talk about managing our emotions and all that kind of stuff. But we don't understand how they're connected. We don't pay attention to the whole system. And we leave out the spiritual stuff half the time because you can't see it anyway. So, you know, it's sort of separate. And it's not. It infuses. That's where the life comes from, is the spirit, right? So you have to have all of that working together. Yeah, we've really compartmentalized our lives in so many different ways. But I think that is going to change. And certainly the indigenous people show us how.
Yes. So Jay Dixon asked a question. Could we please hear how your special knowledge could be applied to home gardens?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but I want to expand you out of gardens, because it's nice to have nice, rich garden soil, but you got lawns too. And that should be just as rich a soil, because if it is, those grass roots will go down. They won't be on the surface. They'll go deep. That's what the prairies are all about. Oh, I want to share an example. One of the wonderful things, as wonderful as Lila June's video is, it makes you feel like you sort of have to be in the country, right? And that's why I'm working with cities, because you don't have to be in the country to do this. We have a poster child, and that poster child is called Village Homes in Davis, California. And the Soil Smart, Soil Wise website has lots of stuff from them on that. So it is about 60 acres. It has 360 homes, 25 apartments, 8 or so businesses. It was designed with nature in mind. So they designed the land to hold water. They built the homes according to solar orientation, which means that they use way less energy to heat their homes because the nature heats their homes. It's designed to do that. The orientation of the streets is designed to help that. The streets are not that wide so that the streets can be cooled by the trees on either side. So it is its own climate, actually. And they are about 15 degrees cooler than the surrounding area. They had a 500-year flood event where they had 5 inches of rain in a day. Yes, 5 inches of rain in a day, and they had no flooding. When they first built this, it was built in 1974. After the first year, the water went down to 3 feet. After 3 years, the water went down to 18 feet. And it's been there for 50 years. So the water goes way down in the soil now. So it's really important that we actually act on this stuff that we know. This is not new stuff. It's not rocket science. It's not huge. We just have to get out of our own way and really respect and appreciate what nature has made possible for us. It's right there. And when we do that, LA has now discovered that, you know, when you get a lot of water, the infrastructure that you pay so much money for doesn't expand. It actually gets undercut because the water goes around it and outside of it, and it floods. It makes a mess. So they are creating a possibility, a bond actually, to allow them to invest in no infrastructure. That's the biotic pump right there. With no infrastructure, so that the water will fan out and feed the land and sit there and then go down, so that they can manage large amounts of water without flooding. But you have to think about it. You have to design the land for it. We want everything flat because it's easy to build on. It's like a white piece of paper, but that's not how nature does it. So they've got farms, they've got all sorts of garden area for people. Some people get 75 to 85% of their food from what they grow right there.
Wow.
That is pretty cool. Look at that.
It is very cool. It is very cool. It's a beautiful place to live. And of course, their property values have gone through the roof.
The only thing I noticed here in New Jersey, everybody has a pool. Here, where's the pool?
And nobody uses it. Have you ever seen anybody in them?
No, they use them for a short period of time, and then they
it's too much
get
work.
annoying. Yeah.
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah.
Trees bring water.
Yes, they do. They do. Forests bring water is actually the better phrase. And so we use the Miyawaki forest method. Oh, this is the other thing. These are atmospheric rivers. So when the forests evapotranspire, when those green spots give off all their water vapor, it goes up into the air and it creates currents that flow around the world that water other places. So when you cut trees down in one place, you are actually unwatering another place way far away, because
Or
that
when you're one country and you pollute terribly, you're taking that water and giving it to us.
Yeah. So the atmospheric rivers are very important, and they're quite chaotic right now because we've lost so much of the Amazon and we've lost almost all of the Sahel Desert.
That's horrible.
Forest. So yeah, and we're impacting others. The boreal forest in Russia and in Canada is also being heavily impacted. So it's going to make a mess everywhere unless we can really stop that. Yeah, stopping to cut down old growth forests is really important. Old growth is so magical and so necessary. The Miyawaki forest method allows you to replant a forest in a very small space. It can be as small as 6 parking spaces, which in many cases is smaller than a lot of backyards. So you could put a Miyawaki forest in your backyard. The forest is planted all in a day. All of the plants are planted, and they're planted very close as they would grow in a forest. They grow about 8 times faster than other methods of planting. So in a year, you actually have quite a big forest. In 3 years, it's self-sustaining. And in 25 years, it mimics old growth. And It brings back the biodiversity, all the little critters that now have a home that didn't have a home before. They just magically come back. So it does so much. That's why it's this whole system. You have to have all those pieces. All those pieces have to be in place.
And it also helps with your mental health and air pollution.
Yes.
And with
It cools the air. Yep.
There we go.
Yeah, it's just it's really magic. It's really magic.
Now, instead of a road in New York City, they should be putting this. Imagine that.
Yeah, and right next to it, I mean, right around it are other developments that don't do anything near that. So it's not like, people haven't learned. It's been there for 50 years and they didn't pay much attention. It's still an anomaly, and it shouldn't be.
What's this?
Yeah, here in Spokane, we are celebrating 50 years. We had the World's Fair 50 years ago. We were the smallest city in the world to have a World's Fair, and it was the first sustainability World's Fair.
Wow.
So we are celebrating that 50 years now.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Wow.
We had 5 million people here for 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah. There's us.
There you are.
Yes. Yeah. Those cabs were the original cabs from 50 years ago. And the lady on the right, Morgan Hall, is wearing original dresses hand beaded by her relatives. She's an amazing woman. She's just an amazing woman.
It's really cool when you have special people come into your life.
Yeah.
And something that you believe in and everything. It's pretty cool.
So we're offering 2 classes. Thank you for this. So May 23rd is Keeping the Water We Get. These are going to be virtual classes, so you can register. There's a QR code on that page. So just scan that and you can register. And then June 20th, we're talking about biochar. So we have some world-class biochar experts. Albert Bates will be there. Kilpie Wilson, who's just invented a new kiln, will be there. Tavon Lorenbach, who does biochar and compost, will be there. And I'm working on a soil expert that has not yet committed.
So. Got to get Kathleen Draper. You got to get Kathleen Draper on. She is awesome.
Okay. I will look
She's
her
another biochar expert. But Mrs. Wilson, we just had her on our live and she was amazing.
Yeah, Kelpie is really quite, and that was just such serendipitous. She sent me a flyer and I talked to her and she said, oh, sure, she'd do it. And then it turns out that she and Albert Bates have been really good friends for years and years. And Albert's actually talking about her book. And I had talked to him and remembered a book that he was recommending, but I couldn't remember the name of it or the author. And so it just all worked. It's kind of great. Yeah. And she's in our area, not too far.
Well done. See, this is what I love about this community. Built on a rock homestead. I teach Sunday school, which is so awesome. This past Sunday, I had the kids plant in cups mixed flowers and microdwarf tomato seeds. One girl says she doesn't like tomatoes, but when I showed her a pic of my plant, she loved it.
Yeah, very good. Very good.
That's another thing. You see a lot of churches who own massive amounts of property.
Yes.
Why aren't they growing anything?
Or universities.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's science. For university, it's science. You could learn so much. And for a church, you could grow stuff and sell it for your church or give it away to charity, which that's what churches do, is a lot of charity. And I think it's such a waste to have all that property and not have a program.
But if that property is holding water, that's okay.
Yeah. That's true.
But most of it is just passing that water off. It's too hard and compacted for the water to percolate.
Thank you, Jane, for posting that. We have memberships on this site. They start at $2.99. And so we have our memberships are grown. Well, I think we have 9 memberships. So thank you for all the members out there. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
David Gray has a question. How do we get local government behind environmental issues?
Great question. And actually, I'm going to speak for Spokane because it's the government I know the best right now. But I've also worked in San Francisco. And most governments actually have pieces of this. So our county, for instance, has a Master Gardeners program. We have urban foresters. Almost every city has an urban forester section. There's stormwater. There's drinking water issues. Those are all pieces of this biotic pump. They don't talk to each other. They don't understand that they're part of a thing. They just think they're apart. And so opening up their eyes to that is one of the things that can more or less easily be done. It doesn't require major differences, really tiny differences. We have a WaterWise program in Spokane that is fantastic, highly respected, very effective, and they don't mention soil at all. So if they added soil, that would begin to put them into that cycle and to help people see that whole thing. And it's another thing that people can do. They say, don't get rid of your grass, but they don't say, make your soil rich. I mean, even if you kept your grass, if your soil was holding water, that would be better than taking your grass out, keeping it hard pan and putting rocks on it. Yes, you're not using water, but you're not saving it either.
Yeah.
The two things go together. They're not separate by any means. So that would be.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I thought you were finished. Go ahead.
Well, I'd just say that would be my answer to that question, is to really help the city departments understand their connections with each other.
So are you okay with collecting rainwater for your garden?
Yes, but it's not enough. You can't collect enough in barrels to actually do the job that needs to happen. And it's not just about your garden. It's about the whole region and all the water in your area. And that's bigger than you. So if you can do that and you can get your neighbors to do that, then you're saving way more water than you ever would in barrels.
Okay.
And it's much more accessible. I mean, I'm not saying not do that, because it's fine. Just don't depend on it as the answer, because it's not an answer. It's just a small piece.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a rain barrel is like 50 gallons. A house that's 2,000 square feet gets 22,000 gallons of rainwater at 17 inches a year, which is dry. That's a lot of water. You add 1% of humus to an acre of soil, that soil can hold 25,000 gallons for each ounce you add. Each percentage. Sorry, not ounce. Each percentage.
And what exactly, you mean like mulch? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that makes me so happy because I have a food forest.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have a food forest, and I've been loading mulch in it for the past couple days, and it already has mulch in it, but that makes me happy that I am taking part in that. So
yeah, and I just saw somebody who is collecting 350 gallons of water, and that's pretty good. That's really great. Yeah, but it's getting it into the soil is really where it helps the whole ecology. It's not just your particular house or garden. It helps everything. Yeah.
So thank you, everybody that's watching right now. We have 76 people watching, not including LinkedIn, 45 people on Twitter, and 31 here, which makes 76. So thank you for everybody watching here tonight. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Oh my gosh, 75 people in the house. This is crazy. So thank you guys.
Yeah. Yeah, we can do stuff. We don't have to wait for anybody. There's a lot we can do just ourselves.
And thank you, Denise, for becoming a member. Thank you so much. Thank you.
And so David says he has 88 inches of water last year. So how do I store it? In a small lake. That could be, if you have enough land to create a small lake, absolutely do it. Yeah. If you look at a lot of the desert water systems, that is what they are. They're like holes in the desert that hold whatever precipitation that happens. And it stays there. They've been very clever. I mean, if you go back hundreds of years, people really had to do this. If they wanted, it's just like if you want food in the winter, you got to store it in the summer. If you want water in the summer, you got to store it in the winter. And they figured out ways to do this. We've just kind of forgotten. So it's something that we actually can do.
So this is actually an interesting question because it is an issue. Compost facility and compost yard waste. The big concern is chemicals from weed control and pesticides.
Yep.
If we get it there, how long should it sit before we use it? Or maybe we should never use it. What do you think?
So actually, the truth is, if you're going to do compost, you can't do chemical. That's really the truth of it. And when you do chemicals, then the compost is sick too. So it is a problem. So my hope is that us being wise people, that we will realize that if we want compost, we have to give up those chemicals. It's really okay. And if your soil is healthy and your plants are healthy, you actually don't need the chemicals you think you need anyway. And those chemicals are killing the microbes in the soil. So it's really not a good thing.
Yeah, and if you're really not washing the food that you eat or whatever, it's killing your gut. Your gut is biome too.
Yeah, we don't need those chemicals at all. We don't. Yep. It's been a crock of stuff we've been sold.
Yeah, so basically, I mean, it just keeps us sick. So I mean, I don't know. I got older and I just became wiser to it, I guess. I don't know. But it's like, man, I'm like, it's the stuff I'm eating. But how do we fix that? You know?
Buy from your local farmer.
Yeah.
Buy from you.
Yeah.
You're growing food.
Grow it myself.
Juliana J. Dixon has, that's how you spell Miyaazaki.
It's Miyaawaki, Miyawaki. And there's a great book. It's called Mini Forest Revolution by Hannah Lewis. Step by step. There's tons of YouTube videos, just tons. It's been done all over the world in all environments. You just have to be local. You have to use your local plants. So in a desert, you're not planting large trees. That's just not what you're doing. But you are planting those plants that will stay there. And you're planting them all together so they support each other. And it totally transforms. I mean, a couple of years is not very long. It is not very long at all to make a huge difference. And the before and after pictures are just awesome. They grow so fast. It's really a delight. Yeah.
Mrs. Cosmic Cultivators, thank you so much for the super sticker. We appreciate that. Thank you so much. And LP, we just answered that question. I know I'm behind in the chat. That's my, sorry about that. Sorry for being behind here.
Yeah, and permaculture has really showed how underground springs will come alive when you take care of your soil. I mean, there's just all sorts of stories about it, especially out of Australia. And if you do it on your property, if you have enough property, you can get the spring and your neighbor might not, because they're not doing it on their property. And you'd think people would learn, but they just look at it and say, I don't know what he's doing. Isn't it amazing? Instead of learning and doing.
Yeah. No, it's very frustrating. It really is.
Yep.
And I can't convince other people very well either. I just do it and hopefully it catches on. And
well, that is what your job is to do. Not worry about everybody else.
Yeah. For sure.
See, what I'm worried about with the compost and the leaves, you know how everybody rakes them out, you put them in front of your yard, then the machine comes by. Well, all that water runoff, it could be full of fertilizer. There's your pesticides and everything else. So would you get of course, number one thing is make your compost on your own. But would you ever get it from the city?
Yes. And the reason why is because their compost is hotter.
Okay.
So they can actually burn up some of that stuff. Compost is a science, actually. And I have read articles about people who've really paid attention to how much heat and what the compost needs to consist of in order to get rid of certain specific things. So you can design a compost pile to do certain things if you're willing to do that. We in Spokane have a regional composter, and he has acres of compost, huge bins that he turns over. And we're really hoping to get him excited about biochar, to be able to do biochar in his facility, because then it would be easy to add to the compost, and it would just mean it's inoculated when it comes out and people could just use it. They wouldn't have to do anything. So it would be much easier for residential folks to use. So that's the June 20th meeting. I'm hoping to stimulate that conversation.
Yeah.
So what practice can individuals adapt to contribute to soil health and natural habitat restoration?
Every one of the things I talked about.
Okay.
That's the whole point. Everybody can do every one of those. It depends on the land you have. Now, I'm a renter, so I have a very narrow garden, and I'm not doing a lot of land design because there's not much I can do. So that's not something that I can partake in, but I can compost and I can add biochar. Those two things I can do. I don't have enough land to put in a Miyawaki forest, but some people do. I have this fantasy. It would be just awesome to have 5 or 6 people in a block put a Miyawaki forest in their backyards. It would totally transform where they live. They would live in a forest, basically. And that would up their property values immeasurably, cool there. It does all sorts of things. It's a win-win, win-win-win. So do what you can where you are. There's always something you can do.
Now, like David Potter says, it rained 88 inches here last year. What do I store it in, a small lake? That's the problem. You got, yeah.
Yes, that's the answer. If you have enough room to do it, yes, do a lake. It doesn't have to stay there all year. That's not the point. That's another thing I want to bring up. It's vernal pools. Vernal pools are nature's way of doing just exactly that, because the land has, hills and swales and little indentations and all of that, and they'll hold water for a time. But there's life that's actually geared to be in that pond for that time. It doesn't expect it to be there all year. Those things are really a vibrant part of our ecology, and we need to manage and encourage them. So yes, David, maybe do several tiny ponds. That would be fine. It's just holding the water so it can go down, however you manage to do it. Put in, these dry streams that are decorative. You can do that with the intent that they will fill when you have rain, and it will stay there instead of running off your property and go down. And it will look nice for the time that it's there, and then it's gone. That's fine. That's fine.
Is there a good resource for the DIY pond?
I don't know a good resource for that. There are people, you can look up Zach Weiss. He does both big and very large things worldwide. So he helps cities reconfigure and that kind of stuff. There's another guy, Bert Lawrence. He's got a bunch of books. He lives in Tucson, Arizona, and he was actually the person who discovered that Tucson got more rain than they used. And they're spending $80 billion bringing water 300 miles from the Colorado River. And they don't need to, because they get enough, but they don't keep it. So he decided on his little plot of land to keep all the water he got. So he did that, and it worked out really well. So he expanded into his neighborhood, and then he started punching holes in the curbs, which is illegal. So just so you know, he punched holes in the curbs and directed the water to the trees and that kind of stuff. And lo and behold, his whole neighborhood started to flourish. So he went down to City Hall and said, hey, look what I did. We can do this citywide. And they are. And he's written a ton of books about it. So if you want to think about how to keep water where you are, he's a wonderful resource for all sorts of clever things to do that.
Now, do you know, is every state, are you allowed to have save your rainwater?
No, not in every state. I think Colorado finally changed their mind, but I know for a long time it was illegal to store rainwater in Colorado. Well, again, we're back to parts and pieces, and people want to keep what they think is theirs or what they think should be theirs and prevent other people from having what they think should be theirs. So that's where that came out, but it doesn't function in the real world. So yeah, you may run into that in places. That's absolutely true.
If you guys have any questions, make sure they're all in caps. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about values, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So I've always been frustrated by ethics because it doesn't seem like it's a clear topic. We want so much, I feel, to have rules of behavior so we can be good people. If you just do these things, the 10 Commandments weren't sufficient. We have to have something else. But they don't seem to quite work. Even the 10 Commandments have problems. It says thou shalt not kill. And we have all sorts of reasons for why that's a good thing to do. So there's something wrong with that. It doesn't compute with me. It doesn't make sense. So I spent many, many years looking at all sorts of different ethical things. And I read a book by Jane Jacobs where she posited that values were systems. So I'm coming back to systems thinking. That's really quite a shock. That means it's a whole, that the parts fit and work to some sort of purpose and intent. And in her 12 years of research, she posited 2 sets of values. One is about protection. And there's 15 values in each set. And the central value in the protection set is loyalty. So just keep that in mind. Something that we're all familiar with. A lot of our families really espouse that. You got to be loyal to the family, loyal to dad, all that kind of stuff. The second set that she posited had to do with trade. And the central value in that is honesty. Now, have you ever been in a situation where there's been a tension between loyalty and honesty?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so, right?
Yes. Without a doubt.
It's impossible not to have that experience, which tells you that these 2 systems have different intents. One is safety, one is effectiveness. And we all know this. We've all experienced this. It is so frustrating not to be able to be honest and say, it's not working, or Joe's really a turkey, or whatever the truth is of that situation. We're not allowed to say that because it's disloyal. And we know the frustration that has because it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So when I read that book, it was just light bulbs went off. I developed assessments so I can work with organizations to show these value systems and how they impact how the organization functions or doesn't and why. But I also knew that there was another set of values coming forth because we're in such a different place. So I was frustrated with these human constructs. So I looked at nature. And the research I did talked to scientists, systems thinkers, indigenous people, poets, folks who were looking at the planet and trying to distill what they saw in terms of how life functioned. And there were about 16 words that everybody seemed to use. So I pulled those together in another value set. So when we talk about the ethics of living regeneratively, that's for me where that rests, where that resides. It resides in those values. They're not horrible. Most of them are like, duh. There are a few that you might not think about, like dynamic stability. Dynamic stability talks about where we see it mostly is in rivers. So there's a river bed, and then there's the river at high tide or with lots of water, lots of rain. And then there's the floodplain, right? All of that is where the river is, but it's a range. Actually, it's not just here where you see it mostly. It's this whole range is where the river sits. So in nature, there aren't walls. There are permeable membranes which give you a range, your temperature. used to be 98.6. We're now working on 97.6, just so you know. We're all cooling off a little bit as much as we can. But we don't do that 24/7. You fluctuate.
Yeah.
We have this range. And in fact, if you tried to keep it at that, you'd be putting on and taking off clothes every 2 seconds in order to try and maintain that as a stable temperature. Life works on a range. And it's the range that's really important. Deming, when he started to work with manufacturers, had lots of ways in which people got to experiment with that and to see that even in manufacturing, there's a range. And we try and make everything alike. Nothing is alike. No two things are ever like, it's not possible. And you waste a lot of money in a manufacturing situation trying to make everything meet. You just want to keep it in that range. That's all you have to do. It releases lots of energy, lots of cost. So nature is very clever, and understanding how she works really helps us live within the ethic that the rest of the planet lives in. That for me is living regeneratively.
That's fact. It is. That's exactly. You said it perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, reciprocity. And I have found, frankly, meditating on those values is just amazing to really, and we started out the program talking about the incredible diversity that's on the planet. That is so awesome. Just spend some time meditating on diversity and just really feeling into that space. It blows your mind. It just blows your mind. Yeah.
So thank you, everybody in the chat. This is amazing. There are so many lives going on right now that we could have 82 people in the chat total.
That's
Please make sure you
wonderful.
guys like and share and subscribe. This is awesome. Thank you guys so much. So what are your plans for the rest of the year? Do you have any goals that you want to achieve this year?
If I can get the urban forestry, I actually have 5 things that we're working on. I would like to bring biochar to Spokane. I want to get residents really jazzed about doing their soil stuff. I really want to have the urban foresters add biochar and compost to every tree hole that they plant, even though there's way more they can do. But if we get to that point, I'll be deliriously happy. Yes, there's lots of things to happen this year. And I'm looking for help. So if this kind of thing interests you, please let me know. And especially if you have expertise in this area, it would be really helpful because we need lots of people doing this. So yeah.
We have welcome in Food Forest Permaculture, which is Howie. Howie's an awesome guy. He is amazing.
People who work with Earth are always amazing.
His food forest is absolutely amazing. Howie culture. He has Howie culture, where everything is done by layers, and it's so great to learn from that man.
Yep.
Every time I see him in a chat, it's like, yes, Howie's here. Yes, because he's always going to bring something to the table too.
Yeah. Oh, permaculture is amazing stuff. Yeah. Yeah, and in fact, Bill Mollison, who was one of the founders of permaculture, came to Village Homes and was just awed by what they'd done there. There's a video on YouTube with that.
Rick has a question. I got to look for it. I missed it.
I did too.
I had to catch up with everything, so I missed a lot of stuff.
Sorry, Rick.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Whoop. Man, I think we clicked at the same time, Corky.
Sorry.
We both clicked on it and went out. May I ask?
I haven't heard about Logan City. Yes, and you can make biochar from human waste. Biochar can be made from so many things, and this is one of the things. The Amazon Indians who created biochar, I would suspect, just burned whatever they had, and human waste was certainly part of that. They just constantly burned the waste that was constantly happening. We, on the other hand, have to have a more nuanced version. So the biochar, the quality of biochar depends on the source material you have and how it's burned. So they're working on trying to create standards. We want to make everything mechanicalized, and we want to make everything standard. The diversity is a problem. And so we're working on how to figure out how to do it so that it can be used in the garden, it can be used on agricultural land, and it can be used just to store carbon, because people are being paid just to store carbon using it. And they're all different. Don't necessarily have to be the same thing. So that's why biochar is a little more finessed. Unless you make your own, it gets to be more difficult. But yeah, yes, you can burn anything to make biochar.
Biochar is just so important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we hear all the good about it.
Yeah.
You know, and so what happens is when everybody hears all the good about it, they apply it in different ways. And it's not, they're like, oh, I didn't get good results of it.
So yeah, if it's not inoculated, see, it's full of holes. That's the gift. And the holes hold stuff so it can feed.
Mhm.
You know, it can give out from what it has, but it has to have something to give out. And if it's not inoculated, if it's those holes aren't filled, then it has to fill the holes, and that's a taking process. So if you put in uninoculated biochar, then it takes about a year for that biochar to start actually giving back, because it has to fill all those holes with bacteria and stuff first. That's why it's great mixed with compost, because if it grows up together, then it's already filled and it's instantly available. Otherwise, it's not. But sometimes you want it empty because it takes the toxins out of soil too.
Yeah.
So if you have toxins and salts and stuff, you may want it empty to take that out first, and it will hold it. It won't get rid of it, but it will hold it. Keep it inert.
Layers, 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 layers.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
all I'm going to say.
Yes.
Okay, I'm just looking to see if there's any other questions here.
Thank you, creative redundancy.
Yeah, he loves this stream. I've seen a couple of topics. He goes, wow, this is awesome. This whole stream. See how he put a hole?
Yeah.
That's how he does that. That's being his creative way.
Yeah, he had a question before that disappeared before I could see it.
Yeah, the chat's kind of moving fast.
Yeah, the energy processes used in drying process and in small size. Yes, so the size of it and the source make a big difference, and how well it's been charred. Some are not completely charred; they're more charcoal than charred, and so it just, yes, there's lots of challenges.
So going back to social regeneration, what role does empathy play in fostering social connections and healing?
It's nice to feel somebody else's emotions. It is more important, I think, to be on the compassionate side where you're able to act on those feelings. It's not just feeling with somebody, it's being able to do something about that and wanting to do something about that, and being proactive. In the living world, it's not about empathy and compassion, it's about reciprocity and understanding that it's both receiving and giving. And I learned that in my own life. I had liver cancer at one point in time, and I had no money and no insurance and no job. And I'm here only because other people cared. And they cared not because they knew me personally, Kathryn Alexander, but because I am a living human and people care about living humans. So I got help from people who I never met, who didn't know me at all, but contributed to my health and well-being. And I realized that there is a gift in receiving because people want to help. And we're so quick to brush things off. And I still do it, I have to admit. But, somebody says, oh, can I help you do this? Oh, no, I'm fine. I can do it myself. It is so instinctive. And it's a slap in the face in a way. It's not accepting the gift that's being offered. It's not being in reciprocity. It's not that giving and receiving. So that's really a key thing in relationship, is to understand how you both give and receive.
See, there are so many health situations, more people with autism, more people with cancer, more people
I was
with
just
all
talking
these.
about that today with autism, and how I feel like it's more environmental than anything.
Yeah.
Because, and it's weird. We run over the statistics and how in Europe it's 1 out of 2,000 people. And in the United States, it's 1 out of 68.
Yeah. Have you seen the ad that has Quaker oats in Europe and Quaker oats in the States, and the ingredients? So you get this many ingredients there and you get this many ingredients here, and it's all chemicals. Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Same thing with candy. Same thing with candy, us in the UK. You look at the back of it, same brand, but total different ingredients.
Yeah.
How do we do this to ourselves?
Yes. Yeah. And we are doing it to ourselves.
My son has cancer and autoimmune. He's 14, right? And he's doing okay. He's actually doing pretty good. But situations could always arise because, when you have autoimmune disease, things pop up.
Yep.
But you're never fixing this. You're fixing that, but you're not fixing the whole thing.
Yeah.
But the amount of autoimmune issues that are around, but there's no finance. There's not enough kids with it. So there's no finance with it.
Right.
That has to be totally fixed.
Yeah.
But again, it all starts with their gut, right?
Yep.
So now it starts with the.
Yeah, and now it's funny that you're saying that, because I am seeing more and more advertisements to help kids with autism. They're giving them probiotics. Why is that, I wonder?
Yeah.
Is their gut messed up? Is that why they're acting the way they're acting? I mean, I just have a whole bunch of questions that cannot be answered.
So I did not do chemo or radiation for my liver cancer.
Wow.
I used a frequency treatment. I believe the physics that we're all frequency, vibration, and sat in a box and listened to music for 4 hours a month for 18 months. And then I had no cancer in my liver. In fact, they didn't take my liver out. They took the tumor, but they didn't take my liver at all.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, yeah. You can work with nature.
Yeah, for sure. That is amazing. I never even heard of that before.
Yeah.
My dad also had liver cancer.
Yeah.
And so I tried alternative things with him, and mushrooms and, and all of that kind of stuff. But I never heard of the frequency.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Cosmic cultivators. Yes, frequency and vibration will cure the world. Put in peace, love, and happiness. Positive vibrations.
You got it. You got it.
I love you, Cosmics. You guys are awesome.
And if you guys wanted to make a donation to the channel, there you could do Venmo or PayPal.
Yeah,
if you do so that really helps us out. And thank you for all the mods posting these links all night. So hopefully you guys been clicking on those. They've been nonstop, which is really awesome. If you guys have any questions for new people in the chat, just make sure they're all in caps so we could it's easier to see.
Yeah, Shawnee, I'm sorry about that. It seemed to me though that the liver is the detox organ in your body. So I could not understand why I would poison that and expect it to heal. That just did not make sense to me.
No, and it doesn't. It doesn't. I still do not agree with the radiation and chemotherapy. I
Well, they've
don't.
gotten better, and it does seem to, but it has side effects. It has
Yeah.
huge side effects. And the frequency treatment had no side effects. It's non-invasive. There's no side effects. I mean, what's not to love?
Yeah.
So David Gray is asking where to find more information, and the tool I used is called the Life Vessel, and you can Google it. When I used it, it was kind of underground, but they are now approved for pain. They can't say they heal you, and they can't talk about cancer, but you can ask. Yeah, and there's not a whole lot of them. They're expensive machines, so.
Yeah, just crazy with the amount of people having autism right now. It's so many different degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? The acceptance. I mean, I see the level because there's different autisms, everything.
Mhm.
But then you see kids with autism that they're screaming out loud all of a sudden in the store, and people are like, "Oh, get your kid quiet all of a sudden,"
Yeah,
because
that's I think is the worst part is that people just don't understand. So then they're always like staring at you or wanting to know why you aren't controlling your child and really that's not the case. Like it's frustrating for sure.
So we have a joke of the day on our channel, and Serena tells our joke of the day.
Okay.
So she goes, "Grow big TV. What plant is the most cunning and crafty? The snake plant." So there's your little joke of the day. So thank you, Serena.
And sometimes that's called mother-in-law's tongue.
So built on a rock homestead says I had ADHD, and dyslexia. I have my medical conditions from 2 weeks old. One of the vaccines given to toddlers gave me a rash. Very obvious. Got shot. Rash showed up. Interesting.
Yeah, everybody's body is different, not two bodies. That's one of the big fallacies, I think, of our medical system is one size fits all, and it's really not. Yeah.
So, yes, Shawnee, from everybody here, so sorry about your mom.
Yep.
Since everybody here in the chat, so sorry. And just like anything with like sunscreen, right? So growing up, how many kids go out and had sunscreen on? I know I didn't have any sunscreen on. Did you guys have any sunscreen on? And I know Corky, she would look like a lobster if she got sunburned.
Oh, I wear sunscreen every day. I wear it on my face every day. There's just no way. I'm too pale for that. Like I fry in the car on my way to work. Like if my arm is in the window, like you can obviously tell now that my arms are completely different from my face. I put sunscreen on my face every day.
Yeah. Yep.
And welcome in, Billy. That's the Wickershire Project. Okay, let me go back to a question. So, economic regeneration. How can businesses transition to regenerative models that benefit both people and the planet?
I know of only one really good example, and they were at it for 20 years. Well, they projected it would take them 20 years, took them 19 to get where they are. They see their factories as forests, giving as much to the environment as they take. And that, the name will have to come back to me because it just went out of my head. They make carpet. And carpet, I don't know what's more prosaic than that. But Ray Anderson was the founder and the CEO when they made that change. She died before they were able to do it. But they were committed to do that, and they've changed it's impacted every part of the organization. And it's something that it takes everybody to do, because where you work, you see how your work is impacting the environment. Nobody else can really do that with the same finesse that you can. So you've really got to be able to learn from and listen to everybody in the organization, from the lowest person to the highest, because their work is their work. They're the expert on how that happens. And you've got to empower them to be able to make the changes that need to happen. And they've done that just brilliantly. I hate that I can't remember it. I'm sorry. It'll come back. But it's just Google Ray Anderson. If you Google Ray Anderson, and his company will come up and you'll see it. It's quite amazing. And they're global and international, and they've gotten bigger, and they've made a lot of money doing this because they've reduced their costs tremendously. One of the things that really irritates me is this bag of crap that we've been sold that, well, if it's organic, it's more expensive. If it's sustainable, it's more expensive. That's not appropriate, because if it's done right, it's actually cheaper. You're not adding all that stuff. You're not doing half the work. It really becomes a better bargain. Village Homes is a perfect example. They saved $20,000 or more, not doing the infrastructure, not putting in those cement pipes that most subdivisions put in, because they spread the water out, and they use that money to buy fruit trees. So it actually cost them less to develop that land than a normal developer would pay. Their houses are cheaper to heat because they're positioned the way they are. They are about 50% cheaper to manage than other homes. So you can reduce the heating costs in lots of ways, but you can't get those numbers without actually working with the planet at the same time. So it saves us money. It doesn't cost more.
Wow. So personal regeneration. We mentioned this a little before. How do we cultivate practices that nourish our physical, mental, and emotional well-being? So that's personal regeneration.
Put your hands in the dirt.
Can't forget the feet either. Now, there's been studies with the feet, right?
Yes. Yeah. And we're so isolated. We are so isolated. We're isolated from each other. We're isolated from the planet. I mean, you get up in a house, you walk on concrete to your car, you drive on concrete to a building, you get out of that car and you walk on concrete into the building, and then you get out and do it all over again, and you wonder why you feel disconnected. Yeah.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah.
So a couple of questions related to the bridge to partnerships.
Yes.
How can we foster authentic connections and collaboration between individuals and organizations to create meaningful partnerships? So about partnerships, I wrote a lot of stuff.
And do you want a 2-minute answer or the real answer?
Whatever you got.
Yeah. I mean, I spent my whole life working on it. And what I will have to say is that we've made progress, which is really pretty amazing, actually. When I started out, because my first career was in working with organizations, organizational change in particular, and leadership. And when I started out, change was an option. In fact, one of my first companies was the Association of Innovative Managers, which showed people all of the change ideas and technologies we were developing at the time. And people thought it was an option. They didn't have to do it, but they could if they wanted. And we were trying to make a case for them doing that. Of course, now it's like ridiculous. If you don't change, you die. And that was not well understood 40 years ago. But I'm now seeing lots of companies that are really experimenting with different things. People really want it different, are trying to start out differently. We haven't made huge progress in that, largely because I think we're still thinking mechanistically. We want the rules, the number of steps, the proper things to do to make everybody that way. And it really is about relationships. So it's unique in every time, place, and group of people. When we can begin to listen to each other and trust the feedback that we get, this hurts, I don't like it, it doesn't work, and actually accept that feedback and change because of it, then we'll see that happen, because that's just how life works. That's the whole point of it. I want to go back to the body biome. Think a minute. The mitochondria are doing just fine. They're creating energy from sun, which very few other folks can do. And other cells are struggling, but they're kind of doing okay too. What happened to bring those two together? How did that manage to be? How did one cell say to another cell, how about we partner? And I have to change whatever I have to change to be inside of you. And I have to change whatever I have to change to make sure it's okay here inside of you. And we'll just do that and see what happens. Think about that. These are critters with no brains, folks.
Yep.
Making momentous decisions that have impacted life, all life, ever since they made those decisions.
You made a quote. I don't know if it was, I wrote it down though, somewhere's where I got it. You said, we need to worry about and support life, not machines. If you want to stay on this, if you want to stay on this planet.
Yeah.
That's so important, because everything we do today is machines. How much money, how much we could generate? That's we got to feed the world, where food should be right in your backyard.
Yeah.
But how does that change?
Yeah. No, the planet, yeah.
Save the planet.
It has to be alive if we're going to be alive. We can't live on a dead planet. It's not possible. We have to live on a live planet.
So true. Well, Kathryn, thank you so much for coming on today.
Well, thank you.
So much. All of us have. This is great.
It was an awesome live. This is awesome. I hope you guys got a lot of stuff out of this in the chat. I know I did. I really enjoyed this, and hope we could have you on sometime soon again.
I'd love to do it. Yeah.
And this was great. We've been averaging around 81 people in the chat from Twitter, and I'm not sure what LinkedIn have, but mainly Twitter and YouTube. So thank you everyone for showing up today. And
garden barefoot, absolutely.
So great live, awesome. I need to seed this stream. See what he did there? Clever. CR's clever. Thank you so much. Awesome. Yes. Okay, Kathryn. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's great.
And we'll have you on sometime very soon. Thank you so much. And
love to.
Take care, Kathryn.
All right.
Thank you
have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much.
Have a good night.
So if you guys forgot, please make sure to give us a thumbs up here on YouTube. It would really help us in the algorithms. And thank you guys for coming in tonight. Holy moly. We had so many people in the chat. It was so great.
Yeah, that was an awesome live. I didn't really know how this live was going to go on, because I listened to her, but I never seen like an interview too much. But I listened to her a lot. So to have an interview like this, it was very thorough, very precise, it was excellent. So happy we had her on. And by the responses we had in the chat during the whole time, I think you guys thought the same thing. And if you guys could share this out, we really appreciate it. Our garden contests are going on right now, so people are making our videos. So we see you.
My watermelon radish is this big, y'all.
I just want to play a little thing from Everest Homes, and I showed this last week. It says, you gotta soil your undies, guys. Soil your undies and see how much life do you have in a garden. So we're going to play this and hope you guys could join or collab with it. Well, erase this all down, guys.
Can I dig?
Yeah, go ahead.
I need to be on something. We have to decorate the underwear.
We're just gonna see if it decomposes.
Microbe decoration.
Drop them in there. Oink.
Burying underwear.
What do you think about that?
Floating. Can I dig?
Yeah, go ahead.
So if you guys could join us Soil Your Undies collab, which is great. It's under our page. I want you guys in 2 months. I want you to do a video before putting your undies in the garden. Mine are not here, thank God. And I want to see you in 2 months to see what your underwear looks like. It has to be 100% cotton. So it's a little fun collab. I haven't mailed anything to Eversh yet, so we can look under the microscope. I just haven't had the time. I think you guys know my story a little bit, but we'll catch up. We'll catch up a little bit on that. But yeah, soil your undies. It's 100%. You got to do 100% cotton. It's just going to be so much fun seeing everybody do that. And make those videos with the 6 challenges we have.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun. Yeah, I know we kind of backdated stuff out, give people more time because we wanted more people to enter. But you can't join anymore. So it's only people who have emailed me. And if you haven't made a video, but you email me, you still have time because you emailed me. So, okay, guys. Well, everybody in the chat will go live on Thursday. We have another epic interview. Hope you guys are going to enjoy that. I know he's very excited. And I'm going to mess up his name because I haven't heard of his live yet because I just do broadcast. Let me see. Let me make sure I can pronounce the best out of this one. You know, it's amazing when you have stuff flying up on your phone the whole time. Oh my God, stuff's still flying. I have like 10 messages coming at me like that. His last name is, I think it's Yannick Favre or Fave, Favre. But he's very, very excited to come to do our interview. He just had a new book too, and we're going to talk about his new book. Before I screw that up, hold on. Oh, so frustrating. Well, you guys will know very soon what his name is.
What? Bob?
Yeah.
There?
1 second, I'll get it. Yannick, his last name is spelled Favre. So it's a mission. Yeah, Brett Favre. It's Brett Favre. We have the quarterback from the Jets coming on. Yannick Favre or Favre. I think it's French. So I got to do a lot of practice on pronouncing his name before we do that live. But we're very excited to have him. And I know he's going to be very excited to come here. So.
Oh, there we go.
Farmer, writer, plant micro and macro propagator, and patented inventor. So how do you pronounce that?
I might have to Google Translate.
Okay, guys.
All right, thank you guys, and we'll see you next time.
See you guys on